Oftentimes people will, when speaking of sciences and whatnot, like just talk about definitions to start. I think that that's quite silly. Oftentimes you can do things without that. There's some reason for it, but the point being that oftentimes it's sort of intuitive. What is humor? That's actually one of the more obvious ones. And when you get into it, the definition, I guess, isn't so clear, and so there's really no point in doing it. It's actually one of those circular definitions. It proves that it only exists really in the mind. It's like a concept. You define it. So what's something that's humorous? Something that's humorous, and that's that. But there, once you kind of look at it from this bottom-up perspective, then you can get into the higher order definition. Is that there's some necessities for something to be a humor. One of those necessities is that there's a script, then there is another script, and then they will, through some thinking, they have resolution. So incongruity is what that's called when there's more than one situation going on, and that isn't the only necessity for it to be something that's humor. For example, you can have children running around, laughing and having fun, but there's nothing funny about it. Another example is that at any rate, psychology can try to explain what humor is through like taking its pieces apart and then looking at so I guess the point here being it's not even sunny out, so there's the joke, or I mean it's not rainy out. Okay. All right, so I'm going to explain the different kinds of psychology. Oh, but can I go back? Yeah, I don't know why I would go back, but the well, I do know why. Okay. Oh, okay. So psychology actually tries to do something. So let's talk about a mood disorder. There's a lot of different. I'm looking at a bookcase. A mood disorder is when you have a schema or something. You have like one little thingy going on, and then the whole world looks a certain way for 6 to 8 weeks. And if that keeps going on, also you have to, there's more than one component. Just like you have to have incongruity, you also have to have hopeless feelings, depression, helplessness, worthless feeling, nobody likes you, low energy. These are all symptoms, the cluster of symptoms, and the disorder is called a mood disorder, or it's called depression, but there's different mood disorders supposedly. And there are theories of psych. You can't really explain it there's no like easy solution. You know, I guess they have they don't have like there's no cure, so you have to think of some theory. Here's a theory: cognitive psychology. That was started with patterns, and it started with computers, and you use computers or patterns to try to explain the brain. So I'm going to do that for every style of humor while explaining. Clowns are not funny. Why am I cleaning this off? While explaining a cure for depression. So how would cognitive psychology cure depression? It would say that there's Well, they would use cognitive behavioral therapy, and they would say, oh, if we reprogram his mind. Okay, so what's known? Then the joke is the other script. So you have something that's known. I'm walking away. I'm trying to just change it. Then what's the funny part? Is that I don't know. How is satire funny? Okay, but how is a mood disorder funny? It is not. It's not funny. I'm not trying to be funny here, but with cognitive psychology, you can teach somebody jokes or something. I don't know. It's a good one. Oh, here we go. Satire on the form of that I'm taking with. It's called a PowerPoint. Hilarious. So satire, usually you know the form of a satire, and then the satire is taking the same structure and making funny of it. Okay, so what's positive psychology? And how does it cure depression using a joke? Positive psychology starts by saying that everybody has values given to them by a culture and the family and everything. I have way too many carrots. One more. And you have different parts of your values. You value your. How can I possibly explain like 8 branches, psych, 8 kinds of humor, and cure depression? Okay, well, I'm going to give it a go. So everybody gets there with all these values that are related to parts of their self, and they're good values. Everybody has, and it makes sense. It's all logical. Here's a joke. Oh, today's depressing again. So that's a cynical joke. Or maybe, I don't know. I guess that's what cynical is. In the script, it says anything. So it's almost like a mood disorder in itself. But cynical is when you're trying to be funny with it. Maybe psychodynamics is where you think that there's a Freud thing. That's a very fine picture. I wish I could zoom in on that so you could see it better. I guess it's sort of dark, isn't it? And so Freud says, I'm actually going to take half of these. Freud does a thingy where he says you have some dynamic process, whatever that means. And when you sit down for a while and you're in a stable environment, then you can work through it or something. So how is that like a joke? Oh, how is this? Okay, sarcasm is another kind of humor. I mean, we can easily explain the psychodynamics of that. Oh, but usually psychodynamics explains a joke by saying that there's something repressed and it needs to be they say the canny is what's known, and then the uncanny is what's unexpected. So like, I don't like you, ha ha ha, I actually like you, see, we're having fun, we're laughing together. So the canny part is and then the uncanny, it's a good definition. I think Freud explains funny really good. He does a good job explaining funnies. Okay. Behavioral psych is. I could actually probably use the other carrot because I'm going to do a layer of carrots on the top of it. Why? Just so everybody's like, oh look, there's some carrots. There they are. Where's the grate? Yep, here it is. So that's where you say, okay, A then B. So you're surprised. So the irony is a good one. That's when you know something and then you learn. Wait, I'm trying to explain. Okay, so in the middle here is it's fun. Oh, okay. You know everything about her, and then you learn that she's making these surfboards. Maybe she serves salsa. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Oh, I do know. I know what I'm trying to say here. How do you cure depression? With irony and what was the... Oh, it was behavioral psychology. Hey, don't shrug it off, man. Okay, that's your response. So everybody has these responses. Like, I guess that was a shrug. Like, I have no idea. I learned something. What? Oh, the irony is when it's always unexpected. So when you weren't your expectations were challenged. So that's the opposite of like A then B, right? It would be like A then, I don't know, A then 92. Developmental psychology is recognizing there are stages to development. Kids have a very different sense of humor. Think of a playground. Parents can't really understand once they're mature, and they don't try too often either. So, but humor psychologists have definitely tried to understand what is it about kiddies stuff that makes them think it's funny, even though it is only moderately funny. Well, one thing is it all has an incongruity. Kids love nonsense. I mean, kids get all kinds of jokes. Oh, but what's the other? Okay, I guess, is there another one? No? Okay, so the other side is, I'm trying to figure out what's the joke here? But developmental psychology doesn't have to do with kids. It has to do with, you have to put this in here somehow. So a little more than that. Oh yeah, I was gonna put some applesauce in here. That is not nonsense. That's the secret ingredient. Oh, but how does this cure depression? That's right. Did I do that for this other one? Yeah, I think I explained how this cures depression. Because it's unexpected. So like, oh, everything is terrible. I'm hopeless and dumb and pathetic and all that. But actually, so that's like cognitive psychology. But this is developmental psychology. So you have to have the basics. What am I looking for? Oh yeah, where's my applesauce? That's already opened up. I'm gonna mix this in with the carrots. Trying to remember about. Oh, this first stage would be like safetyness. So once you have safetyness down, then that's the first developmental stage, and then you move into rules, and oftentimes, oh yeah, because kids, they start making jokes as soon as they get mastery of some new concept, like, oh, I can do the slide, they mastered it, and then they want to do it upside down. So it's like you can break rules once you have all the safety, security part done. And nonsense would come in and just kind of say, that's what, I mean, kids totally get nonsense humor. They think like everything is nonsense. So here's another kind of psychology, biopsychology. Literally everybody not only knows this, but they think that psychologists totally get it already. They're like, oh, butter, that's what I need. No wonder I keep thinking to myself, like, something's off. What is wrong with this? Oh, so no, usually the two scripts for fun is when you're doing something that's not normal. So what's normal? Well, for a depressed person, normal is just every day you're hopeless and I don't know, what's a fun joke? So that would be probably not normal for them. Yeah, and fact here. If a depressed person hears a joke, that can oftentimes be the breakthrough. Then all of a sudden they're like cured. And then once they're cured, then they can start to go out and have fun again. So there we go with the circular definition of that. Okay, so creaming the butter and the sugar and the eggs. So I'm doing halfsies here. And then the other half, I have to go to the store and get half and half. Oh my gosh, running out of time. IO psychology, industrial organization. Speaking of that, I have $2.50. I'm gonna get some cream for the coffee. So this one's kind of a stretch, isn't it? Okay, Shelmet. He needs a Shelmet. So this wittiness is the incongruity is kind of obvious. I don't know what is this? How do you cure depression with wit? Usually, people who are smart, like witty, and people who are depressed are smart. And I'm trying to make the connection here, but sometimes it just you're just thinking. It makes you think. That's what wit does. And thinking is a big part of a joke. That's why children's humor is not funny, because it's so obvious. It's like, let me think of a good kid joke. I already said like 3 and they weren't funny. Very good. Point proven. Is there kids YouTube? Yeah, there is, but this is not kids YouTube. Speaking of that, let's see what the next one, cultural psychology. No child understands culture. Many adults don't understand culture either. Every different nation and everyone has a different culture. But what is a culture made of? It's values. Values are what make up a culture. And in Europe, they use this term for another kind of humor. They use the term benevolent humor. But you have much more than just a different language between cultures. This is the dumb part. I can do this part really quick. I think I just said quick with a European way of saying it. Anyway, what can I say? I guess okay, but how is this like different from any of the other kinds of humor? I can very quickly explain another form of, instead of just the 8 senses of humor, people can also have done a lot of tests. Psychologists love their tests. And once they get their test, then they'll be like, oh, and this correlates with this kind of person. You know, people with long, silly hair. Or people with no hair. That's a better one. Bald people. No. What about people who dyed their hair blue? I know something about them. There you go. That's a good one. So psychologists will then also run another test. In this case, it would be the senses of humor test. Or maybe it would be a test for depression. Or, traditionally, for like the past 30 years, psychologists have used the Humor Styles Questionnaire, HSQ. That one, the HSQ is great because it It splits humor up into like 4 categories using a 2x2. Self-other kind of jokes or humor, self-other kind of humor, and then degrading or enhancing. So here's a good one, and I'm not being sarcastic. Is this is a joke. That's a wait. How can I do this without the sarcasm? Oh, that's a really just a fabulous looking carrot cake. Oh, fabulous? I don't know. Is that like nonsense or something? I don't know. I'm dropping stuff. But you can see how that's benevolent humor, because just everybody feels good after, and just so that's benevolent humor is when I guess I just made a benevolent humor joke. But usually it's between, you know, multiple scripts. Oftentimes humor is with other people. And so, yeah, well, yeah, I guess that I kind of explained that. But how does that cure depression? Well, when somebody goes out in the world, they'd probably enjoy hearing some benevolent humor from their store clerk or their barista who says something like, oh, what if at Starbucks they call out, best person in the world? Everybody would laugh. That would be a good example.
Chicken crossing the street is not that important in my life.
Yeah,
She's
why
lost.
did chicken cross the... So, this does not look that orange, but I'm trying to... It's because everything else is so bright. I don't know. It just doesn't... It looks more orange in person.